Greetings once again from Casa de Perdico. Um, Firmly ensconced once again behind my studio today. Somebody was asking me, they sent me through private message, and then there was somebody else in the group who was asking if I had any Rush patches. And originally I did. I was putting together a Rush tribute band, and then it fell apart because the drummer turned out to be a giant douchebag. Had the bass player, singer, keyboardist all lined up. Guy was beautiful. I mean, sounded just like Geddy, played just like Geddy, just awesome. And I was so stoked that I was going to be, you know, pulling a Rush thing. And I started creating all these different patches for the different periods of Rush. From the first album to 2112, and then from 2112 up to like Permanent Waves, and from Permanent Waves up to and including Signals. Everything after Signals, his guitar tone went really weird, man, because there was no guitar. It was all synthesizers for a long time. So what I thought I would highlight today is a patch that should take you from, say, Farewell to Kings all the way and up to including Signals. It's fairly close. There's a lot of that. A lot of Alex's tone has to do with his love affair with that ES 355, that white ES. He's famous for that white 355. A lot of it came from that. A lot of his early sound was like that. But after 2112, he started experimenting with different guitars. He actually had a Strat on the album 2112, and sort of really liked the response and the way the pickups interacted with the amps he was using. He had been using Marshalls up to that point. I think he started switching over to high watts around Moving Pictures or so. I think Moving Pictures, maybe Signals. He switched from Marshalls to high watts, and there's no high watt sim. There's just not, and there's not really that. The JTM 45 sim that's in the ME80 is not really great. It's good. It's good. That plexi tone though, there's no sim that I've heard that sounds like a true plexi, right? It's clear and bright, but it's so crunchy and dirty. So what I'm doing here, and I'm going to post the patch in the comments as always after the video's done processing. What I've done here is I've gone with a clean amp, okay, with you'll see the settings when I get done, but a clean amp with the mids scooped just a tiny bit, okay, because in the 70s and 80s, late 70s, 80s, was all about pulling those mids down and having your highs and lows, be more prominent. It sort of sets the guitar apart from the bass or from any keyboards you may have in there, right? That mid range is always covered by the keys, and that the upper registers of the bass are going to cover that mid range too. So guitarists scoop their mids out and then accented highs and lows so they could take up that space. What I did was I went with a clean amp and the simple distortion pedal, the early distortion pedal, which is a really good facsimile of what that plexi tone. It's not perfect, everybody's going to nitpick. That's not right. That's fine. I don't care. You got something better? Put it up, man. I'll try it out. I'll play something. I'll use that patch and try to make it sound exactly the way you think it should sound. That's fine. I'm not, I don't own any of this shit that I'm doing here, man. I'm just, goofing around with patches. The patch that I came up with, though, is going to take you probably from, say, Farewell to Kings all the way up to and including Signals, okay? And that's kind of a wide span of time for them. Farewell to Kings was where we got closer to the heart. Closer to the heart. And Hemispheres is where we got the trees, and then Signals was Spirit of Radio and all these other really great songs, and then Moving Pictures, obviously, right? So I'm going to run through a little bit of the period from those albums. I'm going to start actually with Hemispheres and go forward up to Moving Pictures, and you'll hear this is pretty close. It's really good. Now I'm using my Fender again because at some point Alex decided that Fenders in the studio had a much better voice for the way their music was evolving. Their music evolved constantly. So he evolved beyond that 355. He just kept playing it because it was his favorite guitar on earth. But in the studio, he used some different things. Not a lot, but he used a Strat a little bit more often, right? Now here's something from Hemispheres, right? I hope that's loud enough. Let me see. Let me just kick a little vitamin V volume on that. That'll work for me. Let me crank my headphones up just a hair. Oop, wrong one. There we go. Now I can hear it. Okay. This is from Hemispheres. This is the opening Hemisphere suite. Okay, that's the opening Hemisphere suite. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. And the other probably the fan favorite from that album, obviously, is La Via Strangiato, and this is a good one. He's not super distorted. He's really not. His guitar's really, it's really clear. You know what I mean? And my cat is driving me crazy. Get out of here, jackass. Go on. There we go. Sorry about that. He sees the headphone cord dangling. It's a toy. Sorry for shouting there. All right. Well, that's that. You know, there's a good tone right there. That's Hemispheres. After Hemispheres comes Permanent Waves, and I'm not going to kick on the flange for this. You'll need a flange if you're going to do the opening. The opening bit of Spirit of Radio is just supposed to simulate the, or rather, make you think of radio waves in the air, right? And I don't have the flange on. I don't have the flange on right now. You can use it, obviously. Let me check to make sure what I've got on here right now. I think I've got, no, I don't have any modulation effects at all. I'm going to showcase the harmonist with the patch when I get to the moving pictures part. But here's, for instance, pretty good, pretty close. Close is what I'm shooting for. It's not going to be perfect. I can't afford all the amps. I can't afford the plexi. I can't afford to go get a classic plexi. I can't afford to go get an JCM 800. Okay, I can't. Can't afford a Dumble. I can't afford any of the really super hot. I can't afford that kind of shit, man. That's why I bought this pedal to begin with. But that's a little bit of Spirit of Radio, right? That's pretty close. That's really good. I kind of like that. It's better than the one that I had before. I was using the stack. I was using the Plexi Sim, and it just didn't, it just didn't do it for me. So I just gave up on it. All right. This will take you also from Permanent Waves into Moving Pictures. And Moving Pictures, obviously, their definitive moment, after 2112, it was their definitive moment. And this sound with the Strat now, I would have picked up the Les Paul, but my Les Paul has a tendency to add way more, not way more, but a little more gain than I'm looking for, right? The pickups on that thing are just amazingly good, just awesome, right? But they tend to add a little bit more gain than I really want for the sound, right? I want to control the gain through whatever pedal I'm using or whatever amp I'm using, and I'd like for the guitar to have just really just as clean as it can possibly be when there's nothing on it. So this one, Moving Pictures, obviously one of my favorites. I'm a huge Rush nerd. I'm not just a Rush fan. I'm a Rush nerd. So here are a couple of selections from Moving Pictures. Now there are two different ways to do. There's there's that intermediate part, right? Now you can either alter your attack, right? Loosen up your grip a little bit and alter the pick attack to a little bit softer attack, or you can also do use the volume control. Okay, my volume control on my Strat's a little stiffer really than I want it to be. You know what I mean? It doesn't flow like I really want. I haven't changed it out yet because I don't. This is all original stuff. This guitar, and I've not changed out a thing. Apart from the frets, I went with jumbo frets because I think they give me a little bit better flexibility with my tonality when I'm trying to bend to a specific note and make sure that that note is perfect, the intonation I want. I think the jumbo frets help me do it better. So I mean, it's just it's personal preference really. They're they're a little hard to get used to at first because boy, it just takes a much lighter touch to fret a note. You fret too hard, it goes out of tune. You know what I mean? You push too hard, it goes out of tune because of the jumbo frets. So here's something else from Moving Pictures. If you want, now this is let me kick this the right way it should be. We're going to turn the distortion off. We're going to turn the harmonist on set to pitch shift, right? And here's the intro and a little bit of Red Barchetta. Right? Nice and clean and pretty, and that's I think I'm almost 100% certain he used a Strat on Moving Pictures for a lot more than he'll admit to, because he was just so associated with that ES 355 of his. So, and then if we kick the distortion on, same song, if we kick the distortion on, you'll hear the different parts really start to come out, right? If you when you look at the patch too, you'll see that the instead of compressor, I've got solo picked up. I've got solo picked out. And when you want to do those solos in those songs, it really does. It gives a nice little boost. You don't want to change the tone too terribly much. A lot of what he does for solos has to do with modulation and time effects, not with changing necessarily his EQ or the amount of distortion that he's using. So, but here's more of Red Barchetta, and you'll see this tone really matches. And right now, I still have the harmonist turned on, and to me, it sounds slightly better with the harmonist on than it does without. Okay, I don't like chorus. I've been through that before. I don't like that chorus. I don't like chorus on a distorted sound. I just don't. I don't like that tin can sound I get out of it. I hate it. So I'll go with a pitch shift instead, and that's what I'm using here. That's got it right there. That covers just about all the moving pictures and a little bit. I'm still learning a couple of them. For instance, here's from the B side, side two. Nice. I love all the stuff on moving pictures, literally everything. A little bit of camera eye. That right there with the harmonist on, that makes that tone for me on that song. That's really my favorite song on the album is Camera Eye. I mean, I love them all. My favorite one is Camera Eye. It's just 10 minutes of some of the most intense guitar playing and playing, period, bass and drums. Just 10 minutes of some of the most intense playing I've ever heard. And I love the album dearly. So that's a good, I'm going to post the patch in the comments. You can kick on the different parts of it that you want. If you don't want the harmonist on, turn it off. No big deal. If you, me personally, I prefer to have it on. Okay. And in case anybody's curious about equipment, right? Deluxe Fender, right? This is my Fender. The 50th anniversary plate on the back, which is pretty cool. But I'm using a hybrid set of Slinkies. It's called a Slinky Top Heavy Bottom. So it's got a 9 set on the first three strings, and then it's got a 10 set on the last 3. And what that does is gives me a little bit more depth on the bottom end, right? If I'm going to scoop my mids and I'm going to highlight my highs and lows, well, I want to make sure that I've got good lows on the guitar, right? I want them to come out. So a little bit, I'll put a 10 set on the bottom. It's that hybrid set, 9/10. It's called Hybrid Slinkies. And they work really, really well. I really get the low end that I want, and that can get lost sometimes when you're playing the big bar chords, right? Your low end can sometimes sort of wash out if your highs are up too high. That was with just, yeah, I didn't reduce the volume. I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything to the effects. I just reduced the amount of attack I'm putting on the pick, and pick control for me has always been a huge thing. I learned it. I learned pick control by listening and learning Stevie Ray Vaughan songs. Up to that point, I had been using like a point .6, right, 0.60 millimeter, right, kind of a thin pick when you think about it. Well, maybe thin. It's a cross between thin and medium, right? Real thin, and I didn't have a lot of control with that pick. So when I was learning Stevie songs, I kept reading articles about him, and I found out he uses like a 1 millimeter pick, or at least something that thick or thicker, because he's got such a strong attack on those strings when he's coming down. He's hammering those strings. So that was just I just backed off on the amount of picking attack I put on it. That's really good right there. I think that's fairly faithful. Okay. This I was going to do a patch of Alex in the early years, and really that's all that is. Honestly, Alex in the early years is a 355 and a Marshall. I think he's using a Plexi back then, a JTM 45, the old Marshall. So that's really all it was. That's all his sound was. The only effect I ever heard him use, besides delay and reverb. Those I don't consider effects. Those are staples. Those are not things I add to my sound. Those are things that make up my sound. Okay, but the only effects he was using is he used a flanger, or rather a phaser, a whole lot on the first three albums. A lot. He used it constantly. For my taste, he overused it. Okay, but it was his That's he was evolving as a guitar player, and for him, that's what he wanted his sound to be. That's what it was supposed to sound like. So, but this patch, I'll post it up there. You can tweak around with it. I like having the harmonist on. You may not like. You may not like. You may prefer a chorus. There's just that cycling sound. You know what I mean? I hate hearing the sound of that in the background of a distorted guitar tone. Just hate it. It's just awful for me. That's me personally. This again, I'm being messed with by cats. But this patch should get you from, I'd say, Farewell to Kings all the way and up to including Signals. I'm thinking of doing a video for the song Subdivisions using this patch to give you an idea of how good it is in the broader context of the song itself. And it's an actual Rush backing track with the guitar removed. So it's Geddy and Neil and all the synthesizers and all that stuff. So it's pretty cool. All right. I hope you guys I hope my Rush fans dig this. So enjoy.